Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of the Two Saints Show with myself, Mark Carter. I'm lucky enough to be joined by a couple of guests in the studio this afternoon. We've got our friend and former guest, Martin Van Til, back in the studio with us again. Welcome, Martin, this afternoon.
Hello, Mark. Thank you for having me.
We've also just been joined by Greg Dixon, who's just arrived in the studio to join us as well today. Greg will be on in a moment. I'll make the introductions for Greg once he's in. And we're also joined by Hassan Tariq this afternoon. Welcome, Hassan.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, doing well. So plenty to get through today, so look forward to it.
Absolutely. So coming up in the first half of today's show for you, what we've actually got is our review of Saints versus Newcastle United. We've also got our corner chat section of the show, revolving around the coronavirus situation, and does football need to have a rethink, and also British Cup to replace League Cup with an opt-out. So that's what we're going to be getting on with today. We're going to be right back after the first set of words that we have to do for you, and we will get straight on with the show after that.
Fiesta FM Southampton 95.0 FM.
Disclaimer. The following program contains language, views and opinions that may be unsuitable for some listeners. This is not necessarily a view or judgment of Fiesta FM, its management, other hosts or advertisers. The show is for entertainment purpose only and is not intended to defame, insult or offend anybody in any shape or form whatsoever. Listeners are advised to exercise caution in their own environment when listening to the show.
There we go. Right, welcome to the studio, Greg, today. Just come in a little bit later than the rest of us. A few things he had to do up at Shonen FC, but he's in with the studio with us. So welcome this afternoon to Greg as well. Full house today.
Yeah.
So as I said, first topic we're going to cover today is our review of Saints versus Newcastle.
Get your weekly fix everything Southampton FC with Mark C and Mark H on the Two Saints Show.
Right, that seems a really good place to end a beautiful day because it's just turned into one. A little bit sunny out there. Right, welcome back everybody. So, kicking off today's show, our review of Saints versus Newcastle. I'm just going to kick off with some thoughts that I got from Mark and give my own opinion, and then I'll put it round the table to everyone. Basically, Mark's thoughts were that Jan Valery was obviously at fault for the Newcastle goal, but if you want to put James Ward-Prowse back in midfield, then you've got a choice of Kyle Walker-Peters or Jan Valery. Obviously, Jan Valery was out for 3 months, not played a lot of football. If Mark had been picking, he would have actually gone with Valery. Rather than Kyle Walker-Peters. Kyle Walker-Peters has been quite stop-start, obviously, since he came in. He's only got 9 games to show what he's got. There probably are better, cheaper options out there. And to be fair, what Mark did actually say about Jan Valery was the fact he got exposed every single attack. It was always 2v1, didn't get a lot of support from anyone else. And he also thought that Alex McCarthy had a great game, which I understand. Mark totally understood the decision for Ralph to play Jan Valery. I'd actually agree with that. I think Alex McCarthy certainly redeemed himself for the horror show against West Ham. What a 45 minutes. Don't remember a better 45 minutes from a Saints keeper in a long time, other than probably Calvin Davis at Leeds away, or now Anthony Amy's great triple save against Arsenal. The game itself, I'd also predicted obviously Saints were going to get a home loss against Newcastle. I went with a 2-1. Felt that Djenepo's red card for me, initially at full speed, it's not a straight red initially. Obviously, when it's slowed down, you look at it, it probably is a red card when it's slowed down. But you look at it at full speed, it doesn't look as though it's a straight red, purely simply because there doesn't appear to be any intent there. Obviously, he has followed through and he's caught the guy, but I don't think there is any intent there. But initially, when you first see it, you think it's not a red. When it's slowed down, it quite clearly is. Not really any argument there. The penalty, can't argue with, blatant penalty. Boufal's almost thrown his arm at the ball. You get what you deserved. I thought Saints probably deserved something from the game based on Alex McCarthy's performance, but all in all I thought we probably got what we deserved, and it was probably only a matter of time before Sam Maximum actually made an impact and got the better of Valery. Unfortunately, I thought he was quite undone there. And I thought at some point you should have had one of the senior players giving him a shout of some kind, be it McCarthy or one of the defenders, should get rid of it. He's never been caught in that position. Felt a little bit unfair on Jan Valery from our point of view. Anyway, that's my personal thought on it. I'm going to hand it over to, we're going to start with Martin Van Til this afternoon, and we'll go around the table from there, get everyone's thoughts and opinions on that.
Well, the Newcastle game, I mean, having been to the West Ham game, where we were undone by a defence which is not worth a mention, to be honest. I mean, we have not got a Premiership defence. The physicality we couldn't deal with, and it's quite obvious that Steve Bruce, I mean, he must have been watching that game. He knew his game plan. Ralph must be tearing his hair out Because to be honest, whatever defence we put out, we always know there's one or two players who will let you down big time. So to have a go at Valerie, yeah, maybe, but he's not the first. He will not be the last. But what I want to pick up on is, after the game, you see all the fans ranting and raving about the ref. I think the penalty, well, Buffal was totally stupid. You know, there's so many cameras about, what are you doing? Gineppo should not have played. He's a young lad in a foreign land. His mum has just died. His head's all over the place. Sorry, but he should have been left at home, you know, and yeah, it was a red card. Can we blame him? I don't know. I mean, I lost my dad when I was young. I know how it feels. But we cannot blame him. But a lot of the blame's got to go to Ralph. Yeah. You know, I'm sorry. Also now, you know, the lack of depth in the squad's been exposed. Yeah. And again, I don't want to portion too much blame to Ralph, but, you know, this was his decision. He wanted a small squad. He's got a small squad. We've got crucial injuries. And, you know, this is what we have.
It's funny, isn't it? Like myself, you and Martin obviously spoke about this a while ago, and it's exactly what's happened. It's run true, isn't it?
Unfortunately, I mean, I don't want to say I told you so, but what can you say? You know, before last season, we had a lot of quantity and no quality. Now Absolutely. We haven't even got the quantity.
Absolutely.
You know, and we've got what we got, and all of a sudden, the next couple of games, these are worrying times.
Absolutely. Over to Hassan. Hassan, your take on the Newcastle game?
Yeah, well, I think when it was 11 versus 11, I don't think we looked convincingly at all. You know, people forget that McCarthy's triple save was when we had 11 men on the ball, on the pitch.
I think it's important to point out as well, actually, that even without that, we should have been 3 or 4 down anyway. Yeah. Gal should have had a hat-trick. Aaron should have... So, to be fair, even before the penalty this ended off, we were under the cosh and we were struggling even before that.
And we were
I forgot to include that. Obviously, it's quite important. Mark will not thank me for leaving it out, but it's just point out. Right, moving on from there.
Yeah, I think they should have been 4 up within the first half. I thought the crowd played. Alex McCarthy played a vital role, but I think everyone took away from that game as McCarthy had a great game, and they never really spoke about how exposed our defence was. John Shelby, for the first chance, literally walks in past Bednarak. Dwight Gale literally has all the time in the world for a header. Free, thinking, you're 10 men, you've got to be compact. No, he had all the room. 2 minutes later, again, down my side, he's got a completely free shot. I don't know how he's missed it. And we can talk about McCarthy was great. I'll praise him. I thought the fans were rightly so.
Absolutely.
But we've got to really, Valerie obviously was the scapegoat because of the mistake which led to the goal. I thought 9 times out of 10 against St Maximum he dealt well, but that one time he didn't. He paid the price. But I thought Stevens and Bednar were all over the place, and I think really McCarthy bailed them out in essence. Regarding, we only had 2 shots on target. One was a Shay Long, I wouldn't even call it. I think it's a half chance where it's just a hit and hope. Yeah. It's gone fairly central to Dubravka, and one was in the first class. Valerie, again, very, easy. I think within the 90 minutes, we created nothing, and we can talk about, we're 10 men, but I watched a few games this season. Tottenham were 10 men against Southampton, 1-1 at their place. Yep. They won the game. I also watched Crystal Palace against Bournemouth earlier on in the season, where they were 10 men for 85 minutes, and they won at home. So this sense of you're 10 men, it's over. I think that's I don't agree with it, because we went away to Brighton. They had a red card, and to be honest, they still battered us, and they competed very, very well, created 3-4 gilt-edged chances. So for us to just give up and essentially just waiting for Newcastle to score, which is what it felt, was a bit demoralising. So
there's a couple of important points. Obviously, one Martin's just raised. Martin, Mr. Gineppo, obviously you said he shouldn't have played. Who do you feel probably should have played in that position instead? And Hassan, I'll get your thoughts on that as well.
It all depends what mindset you've got, But I mean, if Ralph had gone out and say, let's consolidate, we've had a terrible run. I mean, we for some reason we don't do well against Newcastle. I would have been quite happy to walk away with a point. And just consolidate. We're on 34 points. We've got to get the 40. Eke out a point. We've got 9 games left. So, I mean, small bone maybe. I don't know. It's just... But Gineppo, for me, I lost my father when I was a young lad. And, you're all over the place. And you're not fit to play football. I mean, fair play to the lad. He wanted to play. But, what can you say? I mean, you can condemn him and you can't. It's just a terrible circumstances for him,
Hassan, your thoughts?
Yeah,
do you agree with what Martin said, or would you play someone else?
I 100% agree. I think you need to look after, Gineppo, obviously, and he flew home. for the funeral. But like I said, for him, he was only training 2 days before the game. You know, I think it's a duty of the club. I thought the fans really got behind him, sung his name even after the sending off. You know, we sung his name. He went off the pitch. But I think as a club, they have a duty of care to look after their players. And I think anyone could have told you before kick-off that Djenepo wasn't in the right mind. Potentially put him on the bench. Maybe the last 10 or 15 minutes. You know, give him a go. But to throw him essentially in the deep end. And I think that the tackle itself was more frustration, and it wasn't intent.
Yeah.
And that frustration was based on what was going on in his life and what he's been through more than what was happening on the pitch. The worst thing for him now is he's out for the next 3 games, so he won't play Watford, Norwich, or Man City. So the worst thing, he's got to sit out now for the next 2 months, 6 weeks essentially. And
the worry is if that has an impact on his mental state, because he's not in a good place already, is he? And that's just going to compound it.
And that's what you really worry about. So I think the fans have been great. We've got behind him, and I hope the club are just doing their best of care to, you know, help him get through this, you know, very difficult time.
Absolutely.
He is our star wonder man. Where would we be without his goals and his contribution this season? So, you know, if it is the end of his seasons, essentially, because we haven't got many games left, he's definitely promising, and he's only going to get better. So, yeah, that's my opinions. But I think football's football. It was a red card looking back at it.
Yeah.
But the problem is, we've touched on it, is when you see Lo Celso and Maguire, you know, going vicious tackles and stamps, and they're not given this red card. You can understand why some Saints fans do get slightly frustrated.
Yeah, I think the frustration is lack of consistency, and I think also there has to be a degree of. I mean, Greg will probably correct me on this, and we'll bring in Greg in a minute because it's very important we bring him in because obviously he's in the studio with us as well. So we want to get his thoughts on the game. But I think you need a little bit of common sense from the referees. But I think there's also a degree of, is there intent or isn't there? And I think that was one of those where you need to look at whether or not there was any intent. So I'm just going to bring Greg in now and try and get Greg's thoughts on the Newcastle game, see what his perception was and what his take on it was, and we'll go on from there.
I think before we go down the refereeing route, Mark, I think we'll touch across the same subject we seem to touch on every week when we discuss Southampton, and that is Ralph just did not get his team right again this week, and 2 things concern me over his team selection. Was one, obviously the Djenepo incident that we've spoke about. Like you, Martin, I lost my dad very young, went off the rails very, very quickly. So got a lot of empathy with you, and certainly Djenepo, and to only be training 2 days before the game. I don't think Ralph was looking after his well-being, to be honest. That's my personal opinion, and I think, as a manager, as a club, they should really have a duty of care of players, especially in this day and age. You know, you've only got to look at guys that go and fight our country for us. You know, his mental state was obviously all over the place. I'm not saying he's going to go and do himself in, but you know, his mind certainly really wasn't on football. Irrespective of whether there's any intent there, Mark, or not.
Oh, it's a bad tackle. Yeah,
it was a bad tackle.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's debating that. My point was, I thought a red card was a bit harsh because I get what they gave it.
I think what Saturday highlighted for me, it'll go back to our old story that we moan about, and that showed by the tackle. Actually, he didn't need to use VAR at Salford or wherever they're based.
Yeah,
for Airport.
He actually went and used the pitchside camera, which to me is going back to common sense again. He only took 2 looks at that, and then he came back straight away and said, "Yeah, it's a red card." Now, to me, that's how that system should work.
Yeah.
No more said about that today, hopefully.
So your take on the actual game itself?
My other concern over his team selection is Jan Valery. Hasn't played for 3 months. Carl Walker-Peters obviously was out. Is back on the bench. Would he have not been better off playing Carl Walker-Peters to start with? Maybe get 60 minutes out of him and then bring Valery on. Yeah. That would have been my choice.
I think it depends what you see in training as well.
Exactly, but he's still been out of the pro game for 3 months, right? So he's not played a competitive game in this sort of cauldron. Newcastle have now beaten us 3 times in a row, so they're a bit of a nemesis for us. So, you would have thought that he would have sort of tried to put something out there, maybe a little bit better. The beauty of bringing Valerie in, put Ward-Prowse back into his normal position, so that was good to see. But it is difficult when you lose a man, but sometimes you're quite right, Sam, what you said. I've refereed many games when teams have gone down to 10 men, and the team with 10 men seem to find a lot more space on the pitch, and they frustrate the opposition. Exactly, yeah, the heart starts pumping, yeah, exactly right. And you try and make up for that extra player. Now, the overall view of the game, I thought probably Saints done enough to win it, and I think to me the turning point could have been the penalty save, because that would have really knocked the socks out of Newcastle. But they just dug in, and the worrying thing was if McCarthy hadn't been on his game, God knows what the score had been. The triple save he made was awesome. Sort of showed some credibility back again, and. Worrying times is, looking at the remainder of the fixtures, we've now lost the last 3 games, which potentially we should have been winning.
Well, I've heard people saying that we've lost 1 in 5. It's actually 1 in 7.
Well, it's
we've only won 1 in
5,
7. So 1 in 7 is not good enough. And as Mark said, Mark pointed this out, and we spoke about this. We had a 2.5 month run that got us out of trouble. Yeah. We're on a run at the moment that could quite happen. It could quite easily get us back in trouble. Because as good as we are going on, as much as we've proved we can go on a run for 2.5 months and get results, we're just as likely to go on a run and get a run of losses, and that's exactly what we're on at the moment.
The moment is where are our next points coming from?
Exactly.
Well, we are gonna get to that today, obviously.
Can I just make one point about Gineppo? You know, again. You must question Ralph. Is he that desperate, or is it has he now got to a stage where even Ralph is tearing his hair out? And is it just a pure gamble to put Gineppo in?
He's got named subs that could have played in that position. That's what's worrying about him. You look at what his bench was on Saturday, and you're thinking, why are those players in his state of mind not better to play ahead of him?
But the other thing as well,
he's probably told Ralph he wants to play.
That's fine.
You know, I can understand that.
The other thing I'd like to say is, I mean, you know, you touched upon it. You know, Ralph, and did he get his team selection wrong? On balance, probably did. But this is not the first time.
No, exactly.
And the thing is, he's been in England now for over a year. And this is, I mean, I was at West Ham the week before. And, you know, we got done by the physicality. And, you know, he's been here a year. Yeah. And that is starting to worry me now.
Yep. Well, you say, Ralph, has he brought an impact to the club? You say, yeah, but that's judged by points, positions. When he walked into the club, obviously we finished 16th last season. Yeah. We're only 14th now, so... Yeah. You know, but they're really the main switch.
We're falling back into sort of the Mark Hughes era.
You know, the home form hasn't improved. We're shipping goals for fun.
A couple of things I definitely have to highlight, Mark. Greg, Mark completely disagrees with you about the fact that Saints were good enough to get a result. Nowhere near good enough, in his opinion. And I do agree with him. They weren't good enough to get a result. The atmosphere Saturday, Ralph said, should be the normal. Totally agree with that. Haven't had an atmosphere like that at St Mary's in a long time. Ralph is obviously to blame due to the size of the small squad. That's his decision. He made that very clear. I'm sure the owner was rubbing his hands with glee at that point when he said, "Oh, I'm quite happy with a small squad." I'm sure the board were. But this is the board and Ralph at fault for that. Unfortunately, that was their decision. They didn't do enough in January. Saints weren't good enough to get a result. Got exactly what they deserved. To be fair, it was only a matter of time before Jan Valerie got undone. It was 2v1 almost every attack. He was certainly exposed. No support from the two senior players. Gineppo for me probably shouldn't have played. So all in all, not great. I mean, Alex McCarthy said it was a tough one to take. Ralph said the atmosphere on Saturday should be normal. Totally agree with that. Everything should have been addressed in January, as Mark's just told me, and that's absolutely right. It should have been. Hasn't been. We're now in this position. Got what we deserved against Newcastle, and we're now going to this run of games, and we're thinking, where's the points coming from next? So for me, summing up, Newcastle game performance not good enough. Got what we deserved, and that was that. Martin.
But the thing is,
once round the table,
the thing is, you know, I mean, all of us. I mean, I spoke to Mark about it. You know, this purple patch we had over Christmas. I mean, we went to the Villa game, which was a turning point, and you think, yeah, it's great, but all of a sudden, has that now undone us? Has that now come back to bite us on the bottom? You know, because you think to yourself, the board They thought, oh, we don't have to do anything. Ralph thought, oh, I've reinvented the wheel, and all of a sudden the whole lot have reverted back to type.
Absolutely.
And you think to yourself, I agree. If you ask me where the next points are coming from next week at Norwich, Saturday, you worry. You really worry.
We are going to get to that later in the show. Hassan, final thoughts on the Newcastle game?
Well, the last few weeks have just exploited how much, we haven't got much, squad depth. What I'll say is Josh Sims, he's always been a player who stepped in when there's been injury crises or we need someone to turn to. When you haven't got him at the club, your best two wingers are out. It doesn't look good. I think the board are getting what they really essentially what they paid for, because the squad is small. Can you really blame Ralph? I can't, because he's working with hardly anything. So
that's his own decision, though.
Well, I don't think the finances there. But
Ralph did make it very clear he wanted a smaller squad. Careful what you wish for. He got exactly what he wanted. Yeah. You can't now moan about it. It's no point crying over spilt milk.
But why not turn to the academy? Dan and Lindeloo, Nathan Teller.
I think Mark could tell you. I think Mark would probably tell you very strongly that the under-23s this season aren't good enough. There aren't enough players coming through at the moment to make a difference. I think Mark's probably right. He's seen them a lot more than most of us have, to be fair, and he's not convinced there's enough talent there. I tend to agree with him. There's probably only 2 or 3 players that stand out, really. Greg, final thoughts on the Newcastle game? Just one more thing for me, Tad, just before that quickly. Ralph actually defended his decision to start Valery ahead of Carl Walker-Peters by basically saying that he played one game against Burnley where you could see he has to learn how we defend, and that will take time. You've got 9 games, Ralph, for him to do that. That's not going to happen, is it? Jan was very long waiting for his chance, and I think until the mistake, he made a good job. Premier League means you have to be focused for 90 minutes, because if you're not, then you pay for it. Well, yeah, absolutely spot on. Greg, final thoughts?
We touched on it last week, I think, that the under-23s, we've not had a squad that are good enough to transform through into the first team at the moment. However, like Hassan said, we've got some players that are out on loan, which is worrying. They're getting game time. Why can't they be getting game time here? If these players that we've got currently in the squad are not good enough to cut the mustard, basically. And again, my main worry would be, where's our next points coming from?
Absolutely. Hassan, you're spot on. There is no money there. The owners certainly have a lot to answer for. Right, moving on from there, I think at that point we're going to take a break. I think we've covered the Newcastle game pretty comprehensively there. I'm sure Mark would agree.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show.
Right, getting into the corner chat this afternoon. Coronavirus. Is it time to change the line of thinking on coronavirus in the UK? Does football need to suspend for a month? Do they carry on, or do they do it behind closed doors? Hassan, we'll start with you on this one.
Regarding the behind the closed doors thing, it's the first I've heard of it. All I can say is I've been to various under-23 games where there's only been about 60, 70 people there. And it's just not the same feeling. I've watched it on YouTube. There's a massive echo around the stadium. It just doesn't feel the same buzz, and I really fear that people will lose interest in the game because of it.
I mean, from a safety point of view, do you feel that they need to change the line of thinking on football? Do they continue to play to full stadiums?
No.
Or do they do it behind closed doors and say, right, you know what, they didn't learn from it in Italy, we're going to learn from it, we're going to shut everything down? Well, do they suspend for a month, or do they carry on behind closed doors?
I think you need to find a fine balance. We ain't got the statistics at the moment of cases, fatality rates, etc. But I don't think they should carry on at full stadiums. We talk at some of the biggest stadiums in, the Emirates, 60, Old Trafford, 75,000 people, and the way this disease is spreading. What I would potentially say is, if we can minimise the crowds, so for example, St Mary's, if we could potentially, if it is possible, maybe not 30,000, maybe if we can get about 7,000 fans, just to at least create some sort of atmosphere and feeling, maybe, get, many of those fans, 2,000 in the chapel, maybe 1,000 in the north, and make sure we get as many fans tested as possible, so you ain't got large gatherings. But if the FA did decide to go behind closed doors games, I would fully support it. But I understand from a football perspective why season ticket holders, fans would feel upset. But I think health and safety has got to be everyone's priority here. And I think they're the specialists. I think maybe they're probably the best to make the calls at the moment. But my opinion, I don't think it's safe to have full crowds. But if we can try and minimise the crowds, then that would be,
Greg, over to you. Coronavirus. Continue playing behind closed doors, continue as we are, or shut down for a month?
I think we're looking at it from the wrong perspective, really, because obviously this is a worldwide epidemic that we've got brewing out of this, and you've only got to look at the sporting news in the last hour to see how it's affecting other sports. So whether these competitions get played behind closed doors or what, to me, I feel is immaterial. You need to look at the health consequences behind it all. I fully understand that if they're given the go ahead to play behind closed doors, the massive impact it will have on any club, whether they're at the top end of the pyramid or at the bottom end of the pyramid. The impact's going to be the loss of revenue to clubs, whatever level they play. That's the biggest impact. But I think with what's going on at the moment, we've got to take into account what's going to be right for going back to what we said about Gineppo. We've got to look after everybody's well-being.
Well, just a couple of things thrown there that I think are very important. It's interesting. England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, the only nations who've not shut anything down football-wise or sporting events-wise. Yeah. Every other country throughout Europe, from what I can gather, and most of the countries involved in sporting events have shut it all down. England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, the only ones who haven't currently at the moment. And also, just another thought, if the Premier League actually gets cancelled for the rest of the season...
Because you haven't checked your information today.
Okay, well, right? Just a thought.
We've now got grassroots football that's being affected because we've locally got clubs that have got people that have got the virus. So they're being given permission not to play. So,
and that's great.
So the FA are giving all of the leagues throughout Britain the opportunity, not to shake hands, first of all, and an email has come out this morning from Mark Ives at the FA stating that if any club in whatever level of the pyramid they're in feel that there's a danger to anyone's health, then they can opt out through the containment period.
I mean, my personal view is, if there's a threat, you close it down, you cancel the league, or you suspend it. It's as simple as that. Or you play behind closed doors. There's no sitting on the fence. There's no don't do it. It's a definite. It's either, if there's a threat, you close it down. If there isn't, you don't. Also, something Mark's pointed out, just a thought, just to lighten the mood a little bit. If the Premier League gets cancelled for the season, Liverpool can't win the title. So that's a win-win for us Saints fans. Right, anyway, Greg.
The other thing you've got to consider...
And I've got to bring Martin in a minute as well.
The other thing you've got to consider is we've got a big year this year. We've got the Euro 2020 being played. And because of that, all of the football leagues have got designated cut-off dates of when they've got to finish. Playoffs and everything have all got to be done by certain dates. And this year, the impact is that they're finishing the season earlier. And again, that goes right the way down through the pyramid. The weather has contrived from under the Football League to contrive to get loads and loads of clubs having played too much football in a short space of time. A lot of these leagues are not going to be able to effectively finish their season. So do the leagues take the decision to award the games or make the season null and void? I don't know. Everyone's joking about it at the moment, but it's a massive knock-on effect because some of these teams are involved in promotion and relegation. The teams that are mid-table in whatever leagues they're playing in really that doesn't really matter to them. The only impact it has on those clubs, as I said, is the financial side. But I think somebody's got to make a judgment somewhere, make a stand. Yep. Because you look at the European games that we've got coming up. Some are going to be played behind closed doors. Some are going to be played with limited attendees. And I agree with you, Sam. If you've got limited people there, the atmosphere's not right. Grassroots football can generate good atmosphere with 70 people. Yeah. But going to watch the under-23s, I've watched them a few times, and you can get a couple of hundred people there, and it doesn't really have the same impact. Yeah. You know? And to me, those sort of games, mainly for the players, appear to be like a training session because that's how they would play football in a training session. It's difficult. I think somebody's got to make a stand, and I think in this country it will come from the government.
Cancel it or don't cancel it? Simple. Yes or no? Cancel it, don't cancel it.
Mate, it's a health issue, isn't it?
Right.
I would say if it's going to get out of hand, I would cancel it.
Okay, Hassan, yes or no, cancel it?
Yeah, I think it needs postponing.
Right, let's bring Martin in, get Martin's thoughts on it, and then Martin, when you finish your thoughts, give us a yes or no, whether you think it should be pulled off.
At the moment, I mean, like the rest of us, we're in totally uncharted territory, aren't we?
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so nobody knows. I mean, we can all
Still in the
speculate
facts.
till the cows come home, but first and foremost, it's a public health issue. You know, the government and the chief health officer, he dictates. The Premiership will not dictate.
Yeah.
They will not dictate what goes on. I mean, you know, they might think they're all powerful, but, you know, it's all to do with public health. And if the government say we're going to shut it down, well, I mean, have you got faith in politicians? This is another issue. But I mean,
That's another show.
That's another show. That's another show, and this can go on forever. But the problem is, you know, it's public health. And if they say, reluctantly, I'll say, yeah. If the government and the public health officer says, you know, the chief health officer says, listen, you know, it's our considered opinion, then we've got to shut the whole shebang down, fair enough. But, you know, now the Premiership and the FA, they've got to get some serious thinking behind this and really start thinking what they're going to do. There's no point waiting, screaming, oh no, we want these games played and this, that and the other.
Well, something else to add into that equation is...
Somebody's got to start thinking properly what we're going to do with all the leagues. As like Greg said, you know, if you're mid-table, you're not fast.
Yeah.
But if you're involved in a relegation, especially relegation scraps,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, I mean, Liverpool can be screaming, they'll scream all day long, they haven't been awarded a title, but what if all of a sudden you've got 9 games to go and you get relegated when you've got 9 games to go? Hang on a minute, that's a lot of money.
Well, ironically as well, with regards to the Premier League, there are actually 14 Premier League clubs currently that could play behind closed doors and still make a profit.
Well, this is...
you know, profit has nothing to do with it, in my opinion.
No, but
if you have 14 Premier League clubs that are capable of playing behind closed doors without losing money, there's no argument, is there?
The money issue I was talking about is lower down in the Premier
I understand
League.
that. I understand that.
You're right. Most of the Premier League clubs could probably still make money. With playing.
But my argument is government and the public health officer dictate, not the Premier League.
Yeah.
And if they say we've got to shut the whole show down, we shut the show down.
Absolutely.
I mean, we'll all be kicking our heels, but you know, at the end of the day, I mean, nobody knows how serious this is going to become.
Well, to be fair, I'd be quite happy to be sat there knowing that 15 to 20 of the old age pensioners that attend Saints matches on a regular basis have not come down with the virus because we shut football down.
Well, exactly.
Rather than hearing at the end of the season that 10 of them have passed away because they contracted it.
Yeah, well,
so there's no argument for me.
The thing is, but I mean, it all comes down to how powerful is the Premiership.
Yeah.
Well, from a financial perspective, I'm not worried about the Premier. 70% of fans paid for their season tickets. They'll still get the TV money. Commercially, the games will still be shown around the world. I worry about the lower leagues, potential jobs, etc.
So before we move on to
health comes first. So
before we move on to our next topic, once round the table, shut football down, yes or no? For me, yes. Martin,
if need be, yes.
Sam,
yes.
Greg,
if need be, yes. But remember that at the moment there's more people dying from flu viruses than this virus that's currently going around.
That's very true. And also, obviously, cancer and other debilitating diseases and horrible diseases. So let's remember that as well. Let's put a bit of perspective on that. Right, moving on. West Ham manager David Moyes has been quite vocal, saying that he believes the Carabao Cup should be revamped as the British Cup and include teams from Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. The Scot said top teams should be able to opt out of the competition to help deal with fixture congestion. I have one thing to say on this, David. My own personal opinion, you're an idiot. Be quiet, wind your neck in and give your head a wobble. Over to Martin on this one.
Well, the thing is, over the last, say, 2 seasons, we've seen quite a few managers coming from abroad screaming and shouting about the Carabao Cup, well, League Cup in my book, and the FA Cup. Now, I seem to remember when I was a kid, and Greg might back me up, FA Cup final day, I mean, 11 o'clock, the whole country came to a standstill. If your team was in it or if your team wasn't in it, from 11 o'clock to 6 o'clock, the whole country was glued to the telly. You know, it doesn't matter. But now, you know, these managers, they come in. Ralph is the same, you know, screaming and shouting about the League Cup. But my argument is the League Cup and the FA Cup, they're big institutions. If you don't like it, go back to where you come from. Sorry, you knew when you took a job at, say, Southampton, Liverpool, wherever you come from, you know, this is what it is. Also, Klopp, he moaned like hell about this game against Shrewsbury. My argument is quite simple. If he'd have put a decent team out, he wouldn't have had this dilemma.
No.
He'd have had a fortnight off. So Klopp, Guernsey wreck. But the thing is now, we've got, and this, I mean, you know, coming back to the Premiership again, how powerful is the Premiership? And this, we've got to be very careful that, you know, the Premiership, I mean, Hassan's on about grassroots. I support Paul Town as well, you know, but Paul Town is where Charlie Austin comes from. You know, Wilf Mannion came from Paul Town. You know, going back you know, Ian Rush came from came from lower league. So we got to be very careful. Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see the cup competition remain as they are, because I was brought up watching Saints, watching teams play their strongest 11 and actually go for it, and they were proper blood and thunder cup ties, and I loved it. And that for me is what you stick with. And do you know what? If you don't want to play your full strength team, fine them for it.
Yeah, and the other thing, we support a lesser team, as they say. But you know, I mean, the finest days we've had was going to finals, cup finals, because how often do we go?
Yeah.
But when you go, oh Christ! I mean, you know, I mean, it's
days, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you talk about it. I mean, I still talk about 1976.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 16. I was stood at Stamford Bridge when the final whistle went. I cried. I was only, you know, I was crying drunk. Yeah. But that's not the issue.
At least we're in the same time zone then.
Yeah, but
I was 20.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. You know,
exactly.
But the thing is, that, I mean, the Carabao Cup we went to a couple of seasons ago. You know, the League Cup. I mean, these are days, and I'm old-fashioned, but you know, what is your most fervent wish? Being a Saints fan, I would love to be at Wembley to see my captain lift that cup.
Do you know the other thing I'd love to do, Martin, as well? Exactly the first statement you made about the FA Cup. Take the blessed semi-finals away from Wembley.
Oh God, yeah, 100%. Round of applause for Greg on that one, everyone. I totally agree.
That absolutely
100%.
But the problem is,
the prestige of the FA Cup.
But in my pub, you know, I mean, living in Poole, you got these kiddies, they're big Liverpool supporters, and you know they come out, all the FA Cup's only a Mickey Mouse trophy, and I tear my hair out. I'm thinking, who are you?
Yeah. Right, so I think we'll throw this around the table as well.
David Moyes, go back to the Isle of Skye and stay there.
Yeah, it's important to point out that Scotland's not foreign, but some people do actually class Scotland as foreign. So obviously, I think Mark knows a lot of English people that class Scotland as foreign. I certainly
all
don't.
I will say is, last 10 years.
I'm going to just throw this over to Hassan as well. Your thought on it, and also I want to throw it over to Greg as well. So let's get it round the table, because I'm mindful of the fact we come up to the news quite soon, and we want to make sure that everyone's had their say as well.
All I will say, you look at the last 10 years as a Saints fan. You ask your top 3 moments. Mate, League One promotions doesn't come into it. Championship, the League Cup semi-final when Shay Long scored that goal. I have never in my life celebrated that moment as loudly and as passionately as I did then. And that day, 15, 20 years, we can be sat here and we'll all be sat here and we can tell you where we were, what we were doing on that day. It's games like that. The Gabbiadini 2 goals, we lost that final, but it's cup finals and semi-finals, 2 legs, which fans will never forget. We won't talk about 6-1 Villa, or it's cups like this, and it's what British football is so famous for. And if we're the foreign managers, they come and go, 2-3 seasons, but you know, as fans and as our culture almost of British football, you know, FA Cup and League Cups are competitions where you believe your team can do something.
Last semi-final I went to was at Villa Park. It was Saints versus Watford. Saints come out winners, and I remember the moment Brett Ormrod sealed it, and I was absolutely ecstatic. I was at Villa Park. The atmosphere is fantastic. That's where you play a semi-final. You don't play them at Wembley. You play the final there. Over to Greg.
I just wanted to go back and be a traditionalist, mate. I was brought up in the part of Chelsea, Stamford Bridge on that semi-final day, and nothing beats a traditional semi-final at a neutral ground other than Wembley. Why play semi-finals?
It's also important to point out to everyone, David Moyes is actually the first British manager that's come out and made these remarks, so that's quite interesting. Well, Hassan, Mark said spot on, and I agree with him.
The other thing is, with our Villa Park semi-final, I remember turning up, and there's a pub called down at Villa Park called the Cap and Gown, and these idiots, our fans, were on the roof drinking and celebrating. You know, and when the final whistle went, we wouldn't leave. They had to get us out, forcibly had to get us out. And
Martin, British Cup. Right, so I'm going to go around the table quickly before we go to the news. Martin, British Cup, yes or no?
Joke.
Hassan,
no
British
way.
Cup, yes or no?
No
Greg,
way.
British Cup, yes or no?
No. bring back the traditional FA Cup.
Yeah, for me, keep it traditional. Play the semi-finals away from Wembley. Play the finals at Wembley. Coming up the second half of today's show, we have our Saints news and transfer gossip segment of the show. Saints in focus and Two Saints preview of Norwich versus Saints.
You're listening to the Two Saint Show on Fiesta 95 FM with Mark C and Mark H.
Moussa Djenepo, and in fact Ralph Hasenhüttl said Saints players have obviously rallied around him, and obviously he quite clearly needed to use somebody. So good that Ralph's come out and basically said that Moussa obviously spent the weekend in Africa before reporting back for Saints duty on Tuesday ahead of the home tie against Newcastle. And Ralph explained that basically people were helping to put a smile back on his face. He said, I like to see him laughing, don't like to see him when he's sad. He's not really in a good moment when he came back, but he's now getting better and better. So good to know the other players rallied around him. So Martin, we'll start off with you on that one just quickly, and we'll move on to the next topic after that.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, the problem is as well, his family's not here. He's a lad from Africa, he's young. You know, the team basically are his family, and, you know, good on him. But the thing is, I still maintain, well, he's suspended now, so it's not an issue now. But I still maintain he should not have played.
Yeah.
It's brutal, but there you are.
Yeah, we're going to try and keep these as short as we can, because some of them, we've got a few topics to get through, but the Moussa one we'll keep fairly short. Hassan?
Yeah, I think our captain Pierre-Emile Højbjerg sadly lost his father. You know, he was only 15, 16, so, you know, that's someone who Moussa, you know, can talk to, who can relate to his problems. So I'm sure Pierre Højbjerg's doing all he can to, you know, try and comfort Moussa and, you know, just give him help. And, you know, every day, you know, he's still mourning the loss. So, you know, it's useful to have someone, you know, professional as that. You know, hopefully that comes useful to him. And I just hope, you know, not just within football training, you know, when he goes home, obviously I presume he lives on his own, you know, they was checking up on him, texting him, and if he needs anything, you know, look at the club and the players are, you know, just being there for him all the time.
Definitely.
Continue.
Absolutely. Greg?
Just reiterating what everyone said, really, you've got to look at the lad, 21 years of age, no time's the best time to lose a parent, and at that age, he's still growing up, he's still learning, you know, and those sort of people, sort of coming from those countries, probably really depend on their parents, you know, and she was probably a big major part of his life, you know, and to have that suddenly taken away, and Martin's right, that all football clubs, no matter what level you play at, all become families, but it doesn't replace your true family.
Absolutely.
And my worry is, did Ralph deal with it in the right way? I personally don't think he did. You know, and fair play to the players supporting him, and you know.
But can I just see one thing? I mean, you just alluded to it. I mean, we lost our parents young, so we know. Yeah. But if you haven't lost your parents young, you don't know.
It's very difficult.
It's very difficult to put yourself in that position.
Saying that, Martin, I was driving back from Barnstaple Saturday night, so I tuned in after the football match to 606, and Chris Sutton was on there, and they were, ironically, I was listening to the feedback from the Saints Newcastle supporters, and Chris Sutton made a really, really callous remark, and he actually turned around and said, when Djenepo got sent off, I cannot understand why the players celebrated him being sent off.
Yes.
Putting their arms around him, right? Fortunately, they had a Newcastle supporter on, who spoke about the game, then they had the Saints supporter came on, and the Saints supporter put him right and said, look, you know, he'd just been sent off, but he just lost his mother the same week. Yeah. And Chris Sutton had to publicly apologise on 606 because he didn't have the right facts, you know, and he interpreted it the wrong way. And like you said, there might have been people in the stadium that didn't have a clue what was going on.
Well, it's interesting, something that Ralph said, and I find it, I kind of struggle to agree with him on this one because I don't actually think he's right. What he's actually said is, questioned whether featuring for Saints would be a good distraction. Ralph said, absolutely. It always helps if you're on the pitch and doing what you like to do the most. It helps you not to forget, but to get a little bit of distraction or deflection from what is around you at the moment. I think he's wrong. I'm sorry, I disagree with him. He's wrong.
Statement because obviously a pair of us have been in that position, and your head's all over the place. You know, the last thing you're going to be able to do is focus 100% on what needs to be in front of you.
I'm a big fan of Ralph, as Mark is, but I have to disagree with him on that.
Cristiano Ronaldo, in a documentary, spoke about it. He lost his father as an alcoholic when he was only 19, and he said, all the trophies I've won, all the competitions, I'm one of the best players in football because it means nothing because my dad's not here to watch it. And this is a guy in his 30s, lost his father over 16 years ago, still crying his eyes out. So you never get over it. I'm sorry, no matter how many trophies you win or competitions or how big, how much money you've got, it's something that, deep inside will always hurt you.
And one thing I'd like to say as well, I mean, one of my mates, he lost both his parents, but he's in his 60s. And when you lose your parents, it's natural.
Yeah, exactly.
And when it's natural, it's easier to get over. But
so I think we're all in agreement around the table that everyone agrees that Ralph's handling of it's not been spot on. But I think we've pretty much covered as much as we can on that topic, to be fair, and I think everyone's made really good points on that. Moving on to the next point. Alex McCarthy says he aims to put the Newcastle loss to bed. He admits losing to Newcastle was a bitter pill to swallow despite his first half heroics. He made 3 crucial saves from close range, as we all know, in quick succession to deny the Magpies taking the lead. And obviously denied Matt Ritchie right on the stroke at half-time with a penalty. Despite his performance, he felt that he was gutted at how the game ended. He said it disappointed with the game against West Ham because it changed the complexion of the match when we could have been going in at 1-0 at the break. Came back this week and trained as hard as possible to try and put in a good performance against Newcastle. Alex McCarthy pretty disappointed, but aiming to put it behind him and move on. Hassan?
Yeah, look, Alex is. I think what we can take away is confidence. He hasn't had a great season. He hasn't pulled off as many saves as he did in that first half than he has probably in the last 2 years. The only probable save of Bournemouth under Mark Hughes, essentially the 93rd minute save, which kept us up. So what he can take from it is loads of confidence, and he's going to need to take it into Norwich because they are a team, despite their problems. They know how to play football, and they certainly test the keeper. So he can take confidence from that. But the back line, I'm not quite sure if they can. But Alex McCarthy's always been a positive player, and when we've needed him most, he's always been there. So I'm sure he'll turn up, and hopefully it's a swinging point in his season, essentially.
Brilliant. Right, Martin, your thoughts on McCarthy? We need to move things on a bit quicker.
Well,
a little bit to get through today.
I'll keep it brief. I mean, how many times over the last couple of seasons have we seen a horror show? And we've seen players like Højbjerg being wheeled out, and excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse. Now McCarthy, we've heard it all before. I'm sorry to be cynical and brutal, but I've heard it all before.
Yep.
Basically, the whole team is not good enough.
Yep.
And that is the bottom line.
Can't argue with that, Greg.
Why do we need to hear the excuses? As a support, we don't need to. They need to get their house in order. It's no good saying, we'll move on to the next game. They've got to go out and prove the point.
Yep, absolutely. So moving on to the the one that really got my blood boiling when I read this. Saints boss Ralph Hasenhüttl admits his side is struggling. Struggling, Ralph. I've got to be honest with you. I think there were less issues on the command module of Apollo 13 than what we've currently got in our playing squad and in our club. Got to be honest. What a statement to make. We are dealing with a few problems at the moment. You don't tell us, Sherlock. Seriously? A few problems. Would that be the key injuries to key players and the fact we've got a small squad that you wanted? Careful what you wish for, Ralph. That boiled my blood, that did, when I read that. Martin?
When I read it, I went, really? And like you, I went mad. But I started thinking about it. It's this... And funny enough, Phil Brown was on the radio the other day, when he sat his players down on the pitch and he gave them a right so-and-so.
Yeah.
And I am thinking, is it reverse psychology?
Yeah.
Is it just he's trying to rally these players and say, now listen, we have got problems. And at the end of the day, he's done his job. But, these players, they let him down constantly. And is it not a plea to these players, for God's sake, do something, and bail us out here? Do your jobs. I'm hoping that's what it is, because if it's not, it's just the most stupid and crass statement I've ever heard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally.
Hassan?
Well, sorry to say, Mr. Ralph Hasenhüttl, nothing's new. We've been in this situation for the last 3 seasons. Relegation, flirting. Bottom 6, bottom 7 off the league. You can change the managers all you want, but it's the same players who got us in the mess before who are here in essentially the same situation, and we just haven't done enough as a football club to rectify it in the summers. We haven't spent enough money, we haven't done enough to get the players out, and we're giving second chances. I'm not going to mention any names to players who are either past it, who just aren't good enough. You cannot as a player live off 1 or 2 games for the rest of the season, and we've got players within this football club, within the squad, just because they put 2-3 performances in the season gives them in Ralph's eyes, it gives them a right to start every game. So Yeah, I don't think it's good enough on the players and the manager at the moment.
Right.
But we know they're capable when they do apply themselves a lot better, which is even more frustrating.
Absolutely. Greg?
Again, I think it's same as always, and rather than coming out with crash statements like that, they just need to get their act together and go out and show that the problems aren't there.
Yep.
We all know they've got problems. You know?
Every team's got problems.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Right, moving on quickly, we'll go through, we'll wrap through the transfer gossip, and I'll go once around the table once I've covered it all. Ralph Bleasy can persuade Pierre-Emile Højbjerg into signing a new deal. Saints are eyeing the 6'4" Colossus, as he's better known as, Jake Cooper from... Sorry, bear with me a sec. Was it Millwall? Yeah, Jake Cooper from Millwall. Saints looking at him, 6'4". They reckon he's better than Stevens and Bednarek combined. Saints making the right call as they place Yannick Vestergaard on the transfer list for 20 million. Wolves, Burnley, Leicester City, Southampton, Everton and Newcastle all in the race to sign 22-year-old defender from... Let me double check on that one. Me thinking I had the right in front of me. So this is Tosin Adarabioyo from Man City, 22-year-old. So there's another one there. And also... Saints need to make a quick move and beat Leeds to the signing of Rob Dickie. So, coming back to that, we'll start with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg first, obviously, all round the table. So, starting with Martin, thoughts on the transfer news with regards to Saints?
He's got a year left on his contract. I was at the forum at the beginning of the season. Mark Harper asked him, you're going to sign a contract. He went, I'm happy at the club. I think you were there as well, Hassan. Yep. His body language spoke totally differently. His performances on the pitch, I mean, he's not exactly pulled up trees. And if we can get 15, 20 million for him, sell him. Simple.
Right. Hassan?
I'll say what I said last week. Get to 40 points, and then we can discuss contracts all day long. But until that, I don't want to hear anything from the players or the manager.
Okay, great.
I'd cut our losses and take what we can get for them.
Right, regards to the other transfer news.
The problem is, we've been a selling club and we've sold an awful lot of centre halves now. The centre half position, I mean, left, right centre half are very important. They're key, yeah. And to start gambling on those positions on unproven players is, if it doesn't work like it hasn't this time, we've got away with it. But I think we have got to start looking at proven centre halves. A bit more mature centre halves, because to start gambling again, because we've had it now for 3 seasons where this season we're not too sure, we've got away with it, but at one stage, and it's not far off, your luck will run out.
Fair enough. Hassan, the other transfer news.
Like I said, it comes back to money. If we are working with limited funds and players who are out loan, who aren't performing. Therefore, most likely will come back in the summer, and you're not going to get fees for them. You're going to send them out on loan again, paying 80% of their wages, and it's just a vicious cycle. And until you get out of that, you can't. We think we're given must be about £350,000 just on loan. Look at all the amount of players, and until you can sort that mess out, then you can maybe look to bring 2 to 3 quality players on on those wages, into the football club. So I think the problems are so big. Our ownership is a problem, but. Players not performing, just bad recruitment from the last 3-4 years. It's we're still paying the price for. So yeah.
Okay, Greg, your thoughts on the other transfer news?
I'm a little bit like Martin, really. I look back that yes, we're renowned for being a selling club. I don't think we're ever going to lose that stigma, to be honest.
Yep.
Because as we all know, every single football club is a business, and the last thing you want to do is run a business into the ground. So you've got to try and be positive on that aspect. However, for me, the key thing is we have been an established club that have had quality centre-backs in the past. We've had some great partnerships over the years. And we can all look at the people behind the board who have been involved in bringing in players. And I just think over the last 8-9 years that we've really lost our way on what is best for the club, because I think you need those key players in key positions that will step up the ability of those players that are not quite up to the standard of those quality players. They will step up to the plate not every game. You'll get the Jan Valerie incidents, not every week, but once in a while. But you'll have quality players there that will keep us as a mid-table team.
Okay.
My worry is that we are not doing clever business when the transfer markets are open.
Okay, well, just to sum it all up, I'm going to cover a few things Mark spoke to me about, and I kind of agree with most of what he says, actually. We don't have money for proven centre-backs. We'll always bring in players we look to develop. Totally agree with that. Can't argue with that completely. Completely with him on that. Regards to the situation with centre-backs, Mark actually said, and I agree with him on this, he'd sell Vestergaard, Stevens and Bednarek. He'd actually buy Dickey and Cooper and the City centre-back. He'd actually take all three and sell the current three because he doesn't believe the current three are good enough. Yep. So my take on it is I agree with him. Martin, do you agree with Mark? Would you sign them all?
Well, yeah, I mean, if working from that premise, I mean, you can't argue, can you?
Okay. Hassan?
Yeah, I'd agree completely, 100%.
Greg?
I just want to reiterate, really, we've been a club that have done shrewd buying, I think, and we've been able to pick out some diamonds.
Yeah.
At the moment, all we're doing is picking out brass.
Can't argue with that. Right, I think that's probably a really good time to take another little break.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show.
Getting on to the next topic on our show. This is our Saints in Focus section of the show today. So kicking off with the first topic, which is bear with me, probably my throat again. Bit of a sore throat going on today. Don't worry, guys, no virus going on there. Right. So basically, this is relating to the fixtures coming up, guys, and I believe we're, if I'm not mistaken, talking about where the points are going to come from for the next 9 fixtures. Martin.
Father Christmas?
Hassan, I'll come back to everyone. We can do a quick first thought and then we'll come back to it.
You've got to target Brighton at home.
Yep.
Bournemouth away, even though they are absolutely fighting and showing so much passion. And then it's don't do well at Everton, United. It really starts, you really tear your hair out. So I think 5 will do it. So you've got to really target Brighton, Norwich and Watford, and potentially appointing yourself United at home. Apart from that, I'm sorry, I just can't see much.
Okay, Greg.
Yeah, I'd like to reiterate that. I think we've probably got more chance of winning the lottery than picking up enough points at this moment in time.
1 in 45 million chance of winning the lottery, so that's not too bad.
It is really, really scary at the moment. So,
yeah.
I think to be honest, Saints' next 2 games are going to be really crucial. To be honest, because like we discussed off air just now, you've got to look at the other games that are going to go on around us that are all big 6-point games, and those games go against us. We'll be sucked in so quick. It'll be quicker than quicksand.
Yeah, very true. So, Saints' remaining fixtures, obviously, is what you need to look at, which are obviously key. So, obviously, Saints Arsenal date to be confirmed, but you've got Saints Norwich, Saints Watford, Saints Man City, Saints Everton, Saints Man United, Saints Brighton, Saints Bournemouth, Saints Sheffield United. Martin, where are the points coming from? Apart from Father Christmas, or the winning lottery.
The problem is, we've had the injuries at the wrong time. Redmond just started to hit form, and it happens. There's not a lot you can do. The thing is, we've had 4 games against 4 fellow strugglers, out of which we've only managed to get. And there were, if I'm not mistaken, we have had 3 home games, out of which we've only won 1. West Ham, the game away was an absolute disgrace. I mean, the whole team didn't turn up. It was a waste of time. And all of a sudden you're looking back on this, and as Greg says, the next 2 games, if we get sucked back into it, the way things have gone, I don't give us much chance of survival. And Ralph, he knows this as well. All of a sudden the fragility and the ineptitude and how can I say, it's just sometimes the team, they look like a bunch of petulant kids who just cannot be taught, who don't want to know. And I don't know how you're going to rectify this. And if they honestly think, they can go on the transfer list and there'll be a bunch of Premiership teams queuing up to buy him, I think they've got another thing coming. But we are stuck with what we're stuck with at the moment, and it is not good.
Hassan?
I think
Where are they coming from? Where are the points
you
coming
mentioned Nathan Redmond. He's going to be massive when he comes back. There are reports from Arsenal who he should be back after the international break. So it would just be typical Saints to lose the next 3 or 4 and then go away to somewhere like Everton, which we never do well, and put in a performance simply out of pattern like we did against various teams and win there 2-0. Maybe get a point at United and then lose at Brighton at home. It's been that sort of season. But I think you need to get Redmond back and getting back to basics to what essentially got us 12 games where we won 7 off them. So yeah, maybe Armstrong, Redmond, Ings, Long. I think Cedric, losing him, although the money was good at the time, he brought a bit of consistency to the team. So so losing him was another disappointing thing. But that's football. He only had 6 months left on his deal, so you can understand the club decision. But I think it's just taking the game as it comes. Watching, maybe there might be, if results elsewhere go against us, it might be a real kick up the arse for our players and think, look, we're not safe. But then you've heard from Hasenhüttl the last few weeks saying we're not safe, and if the manager can't get the message across, then it really does worry you. But I'd just take points, even 1 point. We've only drawn 4 games out of 29 this season. I'd just take points. If 4 draws very might just get us over the line. So at the moment, if Hasenhüttl wants to just park the bus against Norwich away and team get a point and just stumble over the finishing line, do what it takes to keep you up in the Premier League, because the way we're playing, if we try and play this expansive football, we're either conceding goals by our own mistakes or just getting hit on the counter attack like we did against Wolves. So it's a difficult one.
Greg, where are the points coming from?
Well, I think the season probably could be summed up that we've managed to press the self-destruct button ourselves. Martin alluded to the fact we haven't got a big enough squad for a competitive Premiership season.
100%.
Yeah. I don't believe we've got the traditionalist players that are at the club now that are going to put their heart into the game.
No.
Because, like you said, Martin, what's the easiest thing to do? They can sit on the fence and think that they're going to go away and pick up a big wage bill somewhere. That's a problem. To me, there's too many 6-pointer games around them. However, on the flip side of the coin, I can see Saints doing something probably unbelievable and pick out when they play the big games and pick up points. It's going to be the teams around us that we're going to struggle with. Like you said, we could probably go to Everton and put on a performance that's going to outshine their season, but you'd like to think that there's more than one game left to give our defining season.
I'll tell you, I'd like to make a point. It's against Villa. I mean, Gineppa was a villain against Newcastle, but against Villa, he had this head injury. He disappeared down the touchline, come back bandaged up. But when is the last time, especially one of our defenders, who really put his head or his body on the line and come back? I mean, can you see the likes of Bednarek, Vestergaard, Stevens really put their bodies on the line? No. And this is what worries me.
Well, to me, there's
the traditionalist.
To me, there's really only one player that's got that quality at the club at the moment, and that's James Ward-Prowse.
Well, I'm looking at it.
He's proved that, where his game's been disjointed a little bit when he's moved, but he's still put 90% in. You get a full-back, he's playing in a full-back position, he ends up at the other end of the pitch, putting an attack in, and then he's defending in his box with a counter-attack. Why are the other players not being in that position to cover it?
I think you've got to ask yourself, we're suggesting it probably will be the case that the remainder of the season will be played behind closed doors. You just wonder what sort of impact that will have on the players. Will it be a positive thing? Will it be a negative?
But the thing is, it's the same for every team.
Because what I would say with relegation teams, your Watford, your Bournemouth, is when you're down there and you're in trouble, your crowd are normally there.
I think we're
and they give you a real good lift.
I think we're in danger of sort of drifting off topic slightly. What we want to do is, obviously, looking at the remaining fixtures, I've looked at it and I've nailed down where I think the points are coming from.
Yeah.
And looking at the remaining 9 fixtures, for me, the one game you've got a chance of getting anything from is probably Norwich.
Yeah.
But I've got to be honest, out of the remaining fixtures, I don't see us picking up points. Martin, where are the points coming from?
Brighton at home. We've got Brighton at home, whom are struggling as well. Norwich away, I'm not too sure. But like Greg says, we've been away. and all of a sudden, where did that come from? I mean, I was at the Leicester game, and I'm thinking, where did that come from? Chelsea away, where did that come from?
Well, staying on topic, I'm going to go around the table and find out what everyone thinks where the points are coming from. So, looking at the remaining fixtures that obviously I went through, Man City, Man United, Brighton, Sheffield United, Bournemouth, who are we going to beat? Where are the points coming from? We need at least 2 wins, probably. Martin, where are the wins coming from?
Brighton, Sheffield United at home, and we'll probably eke out a draw somewhere.
Right, Hassan?
I think we'll beat Brighton at home, pointing against Sheffield United, and I think we're going to get a point at Everton. I think that 5 points, 39 should do it. Just.
Greg?
6 points is, I think, the margin we need. Brighton at home.
Is it 6 points? I think we worked out 41 based on goal difference.
Excuse me, I can't see us getting any more than 6 points, sorry.
Right, just wanted to narrow that down.
I'll clarify that.
Right, okay.
I can't see us getting any more than 6 points. I think they'll come from Brighton at home, and if we're lucky, I think we might get a result at Everton. I think that's where we could do it. Other than that, I'd be hopeful that we could go away and get 3 points at a point at 3 different rounds.
Okay. Right, moving on to
that's the best we're going to get.
Moving on to the other news that was coming out about Southampton. Reports that Saints been put up for sale at 250 million. Me and Mark both agree on this, that we both feel that, I'm sure Mark will correct me if I'm speaking incorrectly for him, but we both agree in the fact that we don't believe anything's actually changed in the last year, that the club has always been up for sale for the last year, and nothing's really changed. Obviously, there have been a lot of talks about who's going to come in, who isn't. There's rumours of the owner of Guangzhou Evergrande wanting to come in, former owner of Alibaba Group wants to come in and take over, reportedly worth 41 billion. Great if he's going to invest. Myself personally, I think we've had our share of Asian owners and I don't want really anymore. That's not discriminating against him in any way, but based on the experience we've been through, not for me, I'm afraid. I'd love to see the club taken over by somebody who actually does want to invest in the club and isn't interested in just putting money in their pocket. But moving on from there, we're going to kick this one off with, we're going to start with Greg on this one. So, Saints up for sale for 250 million repeatedly. As I said, me and Mark believe it's been up for sale for about a year anyway. And if you believe the rumours, it's been up for sale since 6 months after he took over.
All I want to say on this, Mark, is it actually realistic?
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I think maybe it's another story that the media have managed to pick up on Chinese whispers somewhere, and it's situation at Saints has probably gone a little bit quiet. Let's chuck a curveball in.
Well, one of the other thoughts is...
I really think that's what it is.
One of the other thoughts is there are a few rumblings that people are going to start demonstrating. Do you think this is yet again another attempt by the club to head off those demonstrations?
Well, we had rumours in...
Hassan?
Well, we had rumours in November that Gal was looking to sell the club.
Do you think this is another attempt by the club to head off any demos, though?
Every time the club seems to go in a purple patch, we tend to... There's always something from the club that they put out saying the club's for sale or something along the lines.
Do you think the club's for sale?
Deep down, no. I think Gal's still making his TV commercial money, although the club recorded a profit last season, so if your business is making 35 million pound profit, all right, in the climate of thing, it's not that much in the football Premier League terms, but it's still a profit. Club's still in the Premier League, and how often do you get Premier League owners put their club up for sale? So I don't think it is up for sale. Maybe they are open to offers.
Yeah.
Maybe not for 100% of the club, but maybe a 20 or 30% patch if the deal's good enough. Potentially, and it's worked well at clubs like Everton. They got someone with Mashiri on board. Plenty of investment. So yeah, I'd love to be welcome for it. But if someone was to tell me that Gal, Shane, and Katharina, want to sell the club ASAP, I'd find that a little bit difficult to believe.
The thing is, it appears as though the club's been on sale for a year, and to be honest, it could be the club saying there's going to be some demonstrations. We're going to head it off by saying the club's up for sale. But I actually think realistically, and I think this is something Mark suggested, is the fact that if a new owner's to come in, you're probably looking at a new owner if they do come in. It's going to be 18 months to 2 years before that happens. Martin.
Well, more unrest, the first question you've got to ask yourself is, if a new owner comes in, what is he buying? Is he buying a Premiership team or a Championship team? So we'll wait until the end of the season. That's the first thing I'd like to say. But I'd like to make a point about Leap here, Marcus Leap here. I mean, everybody seems to think, if he was still here, the Pandora's, panacea. No, at one stage he would have pulled the plug on the investment as well. So, but the thing is, at the moment, Gal, I'd rather see him gone. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know the man, but from what I've seen, him and Katrina, they've not been good for the club. But also, beware what you wish for. You know, there's so many shysters have come in. You look in the lower leagues, and, you know, you don't know. We've got to be very, very careful. But the thing what I ideally love is an owner where we can look forward, say, for 5 years of stability, mid-table finishes, and say a good cup run now and again. You know, I'll be very happy where we don't have to go through this turmoil year in, year out.
Yeah, it's important to remember what Marcus did say, because he did actually state at one point, I want Southampton Football Club to be self-sustaining. People could argue we're now self-sustaining. People could also argue that Mr. Gale's comment doesn't ring true in the fact he said, I'm not treating Southampton as a pig to be fattened and sogged. Well, that's exactly what you've done, sir. Yeah. Greg?
My worry would be if the club's going to be for sale, is whoever's going to come in and buy it, are they in it for the football or are they in it as a business? Because to me that doesn't always work. You need someone who is passionate about football, as probably all of us are really.
Yeah.
The business people that tend to come into football now, 9 times out of 10 haven't got an interest in football.
Yeah.
It's just paper money to them, isn't it? I think we as a club have suffered over the years with the way the situation came in. Like Martin said, Marcus was probably a lifesaver when he came in, but there was always that time that he could pull the plug. Any businessman will.
Yeah.
And that's a worry. I'd like to see some honesty from the board.
Yep.
To be honest, I think not just Southampton Football Club. I think too many football clubs now don't interact with the right people. The right people are the people that are paying the money through the gate.
One other thing with Marcus as well, Mark's just pointed out, and I actually forgot that actually, he did actually want Saints to be self-sustaining, he said that, but he always maintained as well that money was available. Now with our new owner, our current owner, you can't say that. No. He's always made it very clear he wants the club to be self-sustaining, so it's basically if you can't stand on your own 2 feet, I'm your dad, you're not getting any money. It's like denying your kids pocket money was the way he put it almost. So personally I think the guy actually came in, he looked at the club to be fattened and sold off. It's exactly what he's done. He's done the opposite of what he said.
Yeah.
You sir are a liar, Mr. Gale. I'm sorry, but you're a liar. I'm not going to sit on the fence. No. You lied. Simple as.
You can get
out of my football club. I don't want you at my football club. Do I want Katarina there as well? No, I want them both gone.
Yeah.
Martin, your thoughts? Yes or no?
Yes.
Club sold, yes or no? Is this club up for sale? Do you want these two at our club?
I want these two out, and the club is up for sale. Whoever. Who knows? Okay. Who knows?
Hassan?
I want them both gone, but you can get why Gal brought the club. You know, every season we were selling Van Dijk, Schneiderlin, Sadio Mane, Adam Lallana, Ricky Lambert, Luke Shaw. There was a cash cow every summer. We would have 40 million player sales, TVs, commercial. You know, the owners, he must have looked at those past few, licking his lip thinking, bloody hell, I've got a gold mine here.
Easy money.
And what's happened, Mr. Gow, is you've taken your eye off the ball. You haven't really recruited the right people in the football club, and you are 70% to blame for what's happening at our club. And I'm sorry, we aren't a cash cow anymore, and we aren't an attractive football club to buy anymore. In 2016, when we finished 6th in the Premier League, if Katharina had sold to the right person, we could be here talking about so-and-so different story. But I want them both gone from my football club, more so Gal. I just want someone who cares, watches game, takes an active interest in the football club day-to-day running and function, talks to the fans, attends fans forums, who just cares and puts a plan in place. Because we're in limbo. We haven't got a 5-year plan. We haven't got a 3-year plan. Every year just seems to be survival. There isn't nothing. So
let's also remember, Ralph Kruger said of Mr. Gal, him taking over was a game changer. Yeah, it is a game changer completely. You've dragged our club back into the gutter where we came from before Marcus took over. But it's a game changer, all right, Mr. Gal. Ralph Kruger was absolutely right. Greg?
Yeah, I think...
We'll bring you back in, Martin, in a second.
I think we need a serious change. I'd like to see someone come in and grab the club by the horns and take the club forward for all the right reasons, and come in with a little bit of heart about football and that passion and desire, and bring the football club back to what it should be. Engage the community properly, and it'll be a successful club off the pitch as well as on it. You know, and that's they've got to look at the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Once round the table, final thoughts, Martin.
Well, I do think there's a plan, which is to finish fourth from bottom every season.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the big plan. And ever since Koeman got hounded out, you know, and we've gone backwards and backwards and backwards. And at one stage, it might be this season, and if not this season, it will be next season. That trapdoor will open. And once we're through that trapdoor, God knows. I mean, we've been here before.
Been there before. Yeah.
Club league vision, we currently don't have any. Hassan, final thoughts.
You speak about that trapdoor in the Championship. You need 40-50 million to spend to get out of it. So, like I said, get them out because they've made it clear for the last three they're not going to invest anything. So,
problem is there's a lack of ambition and no vision at the club.
And you remember a lot of the players we've got, like the Nathan Redmond, Højbjerg, who brought to 2016, were brought off money sold by Crown Jewels. Like, how much are you going to relook at that squad realistically? Maybe 3-4 players. How much are you going to get for a lot of the players? Probably peanuts. So
brilliant point from you. Brilliant point from Martin. Greg, final thoughts on
I think
the situation.
I think the reality is at the moment is it doesn't matter whether you're Ralph or whoever's in charge. I think their overall outlook is our priority is to finish 17th, whatever.
Yeah.
We're guaranteed Premiership football. Secondly, we'll get revenue because you get revenue every single position you finish in, and this is where the overkill comes from the people that are putting money into the Premiership and such like. If we went down, I think this time would be a big ask. You've got that parachute payment, but I think the pressures in the Championship now make that a much more difficult.
Can I just say, if we go down, can God be trusted not to disappear with these parachute trainers? That is more than a worry.
Right, speaking of going down or not going down, it's time to move on to the Saints versus Norwich preview. Saints have actually only won 1 in 7 games. Norwich have only lost 1 of their last 5 at home. I don't see us getting anything for the last 9 games, as I've said. That's my own personal view on it. Saints need to go there and get something. My only take on it is pretty much that Saints need to go there and get a result of some kind. How are they going to get one? I'm not sure. Martin?
Well, what I'd like to see, regardless of whether we're going to get a result or not, I would like to see a vast improvement of Burnley, West Ham and Newcastle. I want these players to go out there and on 90 odd minutes, I want them to sink to their knees, and when they turn to us and say, now listen, win, draw, lose, we gave 110%. That's what we're looking at. And Ralph also has got to get this lineup right this time. Because, I mean, the last couple of times he has got the lineups desperately wrong.
Hassan?
It's a bit of a hoodoo ground for us. The last 3 games under Koeman and Pochettino, even with our best team, we've struggled there. So, it's not a happy hunting ground. They won against Leicester on Friday night, played very well in that game, deserved to win. They beat Man City at home, they got a good point against Tottenham, drew to Arsenal, so they're no mugs. They play good football. I know they lost to Liverpool, but really they had good chances, defended ever so well. And you just think they probably will have too much for Saints, because the hunger, whether the game will be played behind closed doors or not, we're not quite sure yet, but you just feel that they know it's their cup final and they're going to do everything to win it. But with us, our injuries and mentality, we haven't created enough in the last 2 games. You just sit there thinking it's going to be a default 2-0 Norwich win, and they'll probably... I think McCarthy's going to need a very similar performance against Newcastle. We're going to need a lot of luck, but I don't know. The game being played behind closed doors, being played in front of their home crowd can make a massive difference.
I'll take a draw now.
I'll take a point. I certainly cannot see us winning that game, for sure.
The worry is he's got to get the selection right, and I think, like everyone else has said around the table, Norwich, despite their position, confidence-wise, are probably head and shoulders above Saints. And that's what it's going to be all about. They've
got Pookie.
I was going to say, they've got a player in Pookie who will take his chances if you give them to him, and Saints have been notoriously great this season at preventing chances to players. It's one thing Saints have been brilliant at this season. You're on a bad run of form. If you're on a bad goal scoring run, that's all right. Go and play Saints, because they'll give you a couple.
And also, Mark, probably at this moment in time, got a goalkeeper that is brimming with confidence at the moment. And you know, I can see him sort of denying Saints some good chances. You know?
Well, it's not as if they've got a goalkeeper of no note. I mean, Tim Krul was a half decent keeper, isn't he? We all know that.
All I will say
proved
is
it throughout the season.
they're the only team with a worse defence than us in the Premier League. If we cannot create chances against that team,
Exactly.
Tim Krul is a second keeper behind Jesper Cillessen in the Holland side.
What worries me is we're notoriously poor at playing teams around us and getting points, and we haven't managed to do it all season. And for me, this is Norwich will take a look at the West Ham game, the Burnley game, the Newcastle game. They'll be like, Saints can't deal with any sort of physicality. Let's get physical against them. Let's make it difficult for them. And West Ham actually allude to the fact that you want to stop Saints playing football, you give them the ball. We had over 60% possession against West Ham. Couldn't do anything with it. That nullified our attacking.
But can I make a point? You know, I mean, you get these players that can't deal with the English physicality, and yet we've got a disproportionate amount of English players.
Yeah.
You know,
we're going to go around the table quickly. My thoughts on it are away loss, I'm afraid. I'm going 2-0 Norwich. Martin?
I'm of a similar vein, I'm afraid.
Hassan?
2-0 Norwich.
I think the best we're going to get out of it is a point if we're lucky, but I can see Norwich edging it.
So obviously we've said key players for Norwich. For me, Krul and Pukki, 100%. Martin?
Yes, I mean Krul, he's a cocky bugger, but I mean you see him. I mean there's penalty saves, and against Tottenham you think, and like Greg says, you know, I mean he must be brimming with confidence. But having said that, McCarthy should not be far behind.
Hassan, key players for Norwich and prediction of the score.
Alex Teti, Buendia, who's created an awful lot of chances this season. I think it's one of the most, obviously they haven't been very clinical in front of goal, but we all know when it comes to playing Saints, that changes. We saw that last week with West Ham. Couldn't score all day against Arsenal, Antonio and Haller, and every chance fell to them and scored against Saints. So the way you see, you get to be typical if they took 3 chances, 3-0 up in the first half, and it's really it's been in the cruise mode second half. But now I'm going to stick with my 2-0 prediction. We need to weather an early storm. First half an hour is vital. So if you can get through that, then might have a chance of still.
So 2-0 Norwich for me, 2-0 Norwich for Martin, 2-0 Norwich for Hassan.
Yeah.
Greg?
I can see Norwich nicking it. I think that maybe stepping up to the plate for Norwich might be Todd Cantwell, but if James Ward-Prowse can nullify him, Saints might have an opening, but I can't see Saints.
Can we nail you down to a score prediction, Greg?
1-0.
1-0 Norwich. Okay.
But the thing is,
Mark H actually reckons 1-0 Saints because he's going unlike us lot.
Well, that's the thing.
But the thing is,
I think Hassan might be going.
The thing is,
he's ever the optimist.
the thing is, if you look at the league position and Norwich.
We should be meeting.
Yeah, no, but what I mean is Norwich sits at their last chance saloon. I mean, they're going to throw the kitchen sink at it. And if we haven't got the gumption to work this out, then we do not deserve to be in that Premiership.
And to be fair, Martin, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
We said key players for
they could be being offered a cash incentive to stay up.
Got to move on quickly, but key players for Norwich we've already covered. Key players for Saints for me, Ward-Prowse and Ings. Martin?
Ings, unfortunately, I mean the goals have dried up as well. Ward-Prowse, unfortunately, his position is, he's played in the wrong position where to be creative. We're losing a few players. What can you say?
Yep. Hassan, key players for Saints?
McCarthy, Armstrong and Danny Ings.
Greg, key players for Saints, and that's it, wrapping up the show today.
Ings, Ward-Prowse, my worry is we haven't got enough depth in defence.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks ever so much, guys. Really good show today. Thoroughly enjoyed themselves. So thanks to Martin, Hassan and Greg for joining me today. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And we'll speak to you again soon. Thanks for tuning in.